This is Talk of the Town, a weekly program featuring community events happening in and around Northeast Michigan. With your host, Bradley Summers. And get the latest from Alpena Community College with ACC President Dr. Don McMaster. And now, today's Talk of the Town.
Good morning and welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm your host Bradley Summers, and today we have a double segment feature of the Salvation Army, and we have the pleasure of talking with Preza Morrison, the Executive Director. Hi Preza.
Oh.
Major Preza Morrison. How are you today?
Pretty awesome, yeah, great day.
Awesome. You know, I see you and your team out in the community all over the place, which is awesome because you are all doing so many wonderful things. You know, and as the weather starts getting a little bit colder in our nook of the woods here,
yes.
You know, your services are really amping up.
Yes.
Let's first talk a little bit about why this is brought here today.
Well, we're preparing for a coat distribution for quite a few years now. We've been collecting all kinds of coat items, winter items, hats, gloves, snow pants, snow boots, scarves, anything that a child may need. Walking to school, we see some kids walk to school, and even some adults walk to work, and it would be good if we could provide items for them. So we're collecting those items now through the middle of October, and then on October 25th and 26th is when we're going to have our distribution, where people from the community who need clothing for their children and for their adults, they can come to our site and pick up those items for free.
That's awesome. So if I had jackets from my children that are you know, not completely worn out and they're still in really good condition, I could drop them off to your location.
Yeah, gently used, cleaned garments too. They don't have to be brand new. They can be gently used. Yep.
And your location is on 2nd Street?
Yep, 722 North 2nd Avenue.
Okay, right by the church there.
Yes,
And
yes.
JJ's and a lot of other landmarks.
Yep, a lot of great things down there.
Yeah, you know, and this is such a great opportunity because, like you said, there are so many young people who, you know, it could just be something as simple as they just lost their jacket.
Yes.
You know, and maybe they don't even want to tell their parents. I have some, you know, with the organization that I'm involved with, I know some of those personal stories that are out there. But, you know, the hard part is that there are a lot of people and a lot of individuals that, you know, when you have to make a decision of whether to put gas in your car or food on the table, and you can't afford a $30, $40, $20 jacket.
That's right.
You know, having these kind of resources is incredible.
Yes, and we want to encourage children to go outside. It's more healthier, especially being up in Michigan. We need our vitamin D, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We need to get, so the more we can get the kids comfortable enough to go out and play, and especially when they're at school during recess time, to be able to go out and play and not, you know, cuddle in a corner because they're too cold.
Yeah, and it's, you know, and have you seen an increase in these needs over the course of, you know, some time?
Yeah, over the past 2 years we definitely have, you know, and it's also people who have never come to the Salvation Army before. We've seen a lot of first-timers who finally have said, hey, we're at a point that we just cannot, you know, we don't know how much longer we can go with the economy the way it is and the income that we're receiving. And so we've been able to be there with open arms. Our office is open. You come in, talk to people with faces, and we're able to help you and assist you.
Well, you know, in March when they took away a lot of the EBT and the bridge cards and a lot of those resources for families that were, you know, very plentiful during the COVID years, you know, now families are, like I was saying, they're really faced with those challenges of, you know, how do you keep that food on the table?
That's right.
And how do you keep these resources? Because, yeah, for the next 5-6 months, you can't just live inside your home. You have to go outside.
That's
like
right. And again, their budgets are pretty tight. So when something does happen, like they get a flat tire, and now they have to buy a tire, or someone gets sick, and now they have to take one of their children to the doctors. They had a balanced budget until that happened, and now they're underground. What are they going to do under the, you know, water? What are they going to do? So they can come to us, and we can again provide food out of the food pantry for them, you know. And all of that is without judgment, because we've all been there, done that. I've been without a home for a while and had to ask for assistance too. So we've all been there, done that in our own way, having to ask someone for help And we just need to do that. We need to do that. We're here there for that reason, and also the people in the community donate to the Salvation Army so that we can provide those services. Like we were saying earlier, we're not there to fill our pockets as high as we can. We're there to get the money out as quickly as we can to serve the people in the community.
And I know you personally do a lot more above and beyond what just your job entails. You know, we were talking just before the show aired or started taping was, you know, making donuts for National Donut Day. And you personally made the donuts for this event. Not just going somewhere, purchasing them and bringing them in. You took the time to make donuts, which is not an easy feat in some sense.
No, it isn't. Not for a non-baker.
Yeah, right? You know, and kind of talking about food, I think it's a good segue to talk about the food pantry.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the food pantry.
Well, our pantry is open every Monday through Friday from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and so someone can come in for food items. Again, they just come in and tell us what they need, and it's one of their self-serve. We go in, we take them to the pantry, and we say, you know, choose what you want. You know, we want them to choose something that they're going to eat, not to be wasteful of anything. So if they say, well, we like tuna, well, okay, take some tuna. And then we have freezers full of items. Then we also have strived to really work, especially recently, trying to get grants so that we can provide healthy choices for them. So we try to provide fruits and vegetables for them too.
Wow, and I would imagine you've probably seen an increase in those needs as well.
Oh, definitely, yes, definitely. Yeah, this year especially, it seems like I'm going shopping more often than I have in the past. Usually we'd order from the food bank, and that would last us a whole month. It seems like every week I'm shopping at different locations here in this community to buy items that we need to fill our pantry.
Yeah, and are there income thresholds to receiving any of the items from the food pantry?
No, the reason why we don't have income is, again, you might make pretty good money, but for some reason something serious happened and now you're struggling financially. So we bring you in, we ask you what's going on in your life, and then we say, okay, that sounds great, let's move on, you know.
Yeah. Well, and that, you know, obviously the paperwork makes it a little easier in that way, but, you know, it's just more of that willingness to be able to help, so there aren't so many of those boundaries and limitations as to why someone couldn't receive food, you know, because they are food insecure or need that.
And the paperwork mostly is for us to see how more we can help them. We just don't want to put a Band-Aid on them so then a couple weeks later they're back, you know, come through our door again. We want to say, okay, what other services can we provide them? What other resources in this community can we send them to? So I know some people will say, well, why do you have all this paperwork, all these things that people have to fill out? Well, you know, some of that is to find out how we can help them more. And also if we receive food from the government, they may require us to have them sign a form that says that they received. Some of those things are not things that we're trying to do to embarrass people or make them feel bad. It's really to see how we can totally help them all the way so they're self-sufficient.
And those grants are so important, and those resources. But I look forward to continuing this conversation after we come back from the break. So continue to join us with our conversation with Prisa Morrison from the Salvation Army after the break. Welcome back, everyone. We are continuing our conversation with Prisa Morrison from the Salvation Army. Hi, Prisa.
Hello.
Hi again. So, you know, in the first segment, we talked a lot about the food pantry, the clothing giveaway that's happening later on towards the end of October, and those wonderful resources. Let's talk a little bit about your major fundraisers that are coming up, and each year it's something that the community looks forward to, and something that I know, you know, we see a plethora of opportunities to be able to give directly to your services through the Red Kettle campaign.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about the Red Kettle and its importance and why it's so important to your organization.
Well, it's so important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's our major fundraiser of the year. And in the Salvation Army right now, that's really the one we do in this community. Some communities, you have 4 or 5 fundraisers. We only have one, and that's this one. And so it's very important for us that we raise the funds so that we can serve the people throughout the year. So when you give the money at Christmas, it doesn't just go to serve at Christmas, it goes throughout the whole year. So that's why it's so important. It also gives the community an opportunity to give, not only to the Salvation Army, but to give to the community as they're out there ringing bells. They meet a lot of people and talk to people, and they just have a really good time, and they can donate their time for different programs that we're doing during the Christmas season. Agencies, groups, even businesses can ring bells. They can take whatever hours they want to ring bells. They just have to go to registertoring.com, registertoring.com. They can pick the date, the time, the location. for their agency or their group or their business. I've had some businesses, they even had a little competition between different departments to see who could raise the most money.
And that's something that you really started doing within the last couple of years.
Yes.
Was the agencies and businesses kind of not only just challenging themselves, but it's a team building activity as an organization.
Oh, yes. Yep.
To be able to go out and do something that's especially a for-profit in the community, giving their time, because some people may not have the ways and means to be able to give financially, but to give their time to be able to go out to do something that helps with such a great cause and helps so many people in our community and the surrounding areas, what a great way to do that.
Yeah, well, and especially for us, an empty kettle means no income. And so we want to have people out there, and I do hire some, but again, everyone knows how it is right now with looking for employees for jobs. Bell ringing is the same thing. And so we have some paid and we have some volunteered, but we try to push more on the volunteer. The paid people usually are people that are struggling themselves and they need some extra funds, especially at Christmas time, to get their children Christmas gifts or to celebrate the Christmas however they do. And so then they work for us so that we're able to pay for that. But we hope that we receive more volunteers so that more of the income stays within us.
So you can offset those costs.
Yep. And then all the funds that come in stay in this community too.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, and that's good that you pointed that out, because it's not like these are being sent to Kansas City, Missouri, or somewhere. These are funds that are staying to help our population in our community, and and helping with the limited resources that some families have. The first thing that comes to a thought that comes to my mind is, Christmas is such a magical time, with kids and, and it's the gifts and the, spending time with family and the having food and eating together. But for so many families, though, this is the upcoming part of this year, the last part of our year is the most stressful. It's, sometimes, the embarrassment of almost not being able to provide for your family in some sense, and and the disappointment of having to tell kids, I'm sorry, but you can't have this SpongeBob SquarePants toy this year because well, we need to put food on the table. And I think that going through many years of going through wish lists and looking at some of the things that kids ask for, it is a tear-jerking moment when you see a kid ask for a pair of underwear, socks,
we've seen that.
And jackets, when 90% of the other kids that are around them are asking for toys and more material possessions, not the fundamental physiological needs that these young people need. And it's pretty amazing when an 8-year-old is asking for these things.
The Salvation Army's been doing this since 1888. That long, and we have even some kids will come and say, can I get something for my mom and dad instead? So they're not even thinking of themselves. They want to give back to their parents because of all that their parents have done. And some of them even have a hard time thinking of anything. Well, I really don't know what I need because I'm happy with what I have now. So we sometimes knock young people and say they don't have any sense, they don't know what they're thinking, they're very selfish and narcissistic. But you'd be surprised how many children really do care for those around them more than themselves.
And then I get the pleasure of seeing that a lot too. And it's pretty amazing when a young person just has that maturity and that understanding of how the world works. And and you always have a special place in your heart, and you maybe put together a side list of like, all right, Jimmy really wanted this, but he's asking for these these things just to get by, and you do whatever you can to try to facilitate.
Well, we have an adoption program where agencies can adopt families, and so that's what we do. We kind of pull them aside, and then when someone calls and says we'd like to adopt a family, we say we know the perfect family. Here's a family who's asking for something special, or their kids are asking for something special that we may not get from having the angels on the tree at Walmart. And so that really helps that they can provide that something special. Some kids want educational toys and things like that. That again, not that fun toy, but educational. So we give them to families that can do that.
Well, and that's and working with you know, United Way in the community and working with other entities that are providing these, you know, similar services, I know there is a huge increase in these needs. You know, so I commend you and your team, you know, for, you know, putting that right foot forward and doing what is necessary to make this less stressful on families.
And well, that's why PR is so important for the community to know, and that's why this year we're hoping to ask the community to help us nominate a Christmas chairman. And so if there's a Christmas chairperson, so if there's somebody in this community that says, I know a perfect person who shows what Christmas is all about, who loves giving to other people and would be a great chairman, Christmas chairman for you, they can just nominate that person for us through our Facebook page, which is the Salvation Army of Alpena Facebook page. They can call me, and at the Salvation Army, extension 12 is my number. They can even email me, again, preza.morrison@usc.salvationarmy.org, or all the ways, or on our website too, which is www.salmitch.org/Alpena, or all the different ways that they can nominate someone they think from our community. I think it makes it special to have someone from our community that really gives from their heart. That might be someone that we can use as our honorary chairman.
Well, I've got a few that come to mind, and we'll talk after the show.
Sounds great.
For sure.
Sounds great.
You know, and I know Justin Hinckley was the chairperson last year.
Yes, he was.
And I know he was a great representative of, you know, your mission and what the Salvation Army does in our community. Well, I can't believe it's already the end of our show here. But, you know, every time we talk, you know, I'm always amazed at the things that you are doing and your team to do such great work for the people in our community that need it the most.
Well, we wouldn't be able to do it without people like you. I mean, people in this community are so generous and so kind, so giving whenever we need something, even if it's a case of an emergency. I always appeal on my Facebook page, and it seems like immediately I get something from someone in the community. So we have a very generous community, and I just appreciate them so much. We wouldn't be able to do all that we do if it wasn't for them.
And we are extraordinarily lucky, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We are.
Well, thank you so much for your time today and being on for both segments and talking about the Salvation Army. And thank you all for joining us as we continue to learn about the world of nonprofits that surround us. Have a great rest of your Sunday and spread peace and love.
Good morning. I am Jay Waltwright, Director of Public Information and Marketing for Alpena Community College, and this is the ACC portion of Talk of the Town. With me this morning is Brenda Herman, Executive Director of the ACC Foundation.
Good morning, Jay.
Welcome. How are you, Brenda?
I'm doing great.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. For those who don't know, Brenda and I work together on a daily basis in the same office, in the President's office. So we chat on a regular basis about all the great things that are going on in the ACC Foundation. And Brenda is here today to share some of that with you. So, Brenda, I'm working on the annual report these days, and I'm looking back at the previous year about all the great things that have gone on, and an important part of that report is the foundation report. So, you know, one of the things I love to read in the report are the numbers of scholarships and the dollars that were awarded. So could you start there? Could you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think most people, when they hear about the ACC Foundation, the first thing that comes to their mind is the scholarship support. Everybody knows that the cost of tuition at all, you know, institutions of higher education continues to climb a little bit, and so the foundation's role is really important, I think, helping our students to generate a little bit of scholarship assistance. And last year was no exception to that. We have a number of scholarships established for our students. And as far as, you know, exact dollar amounts, I don't have that right off the top of my head. I can tell you for this current year, we have awarded 265 scholarships, totaling just over $170,000. So it's no small chunk of change that's going out to help our students. The state's come out with some new programs also in this past year. There's a lot of you know, state assistance in the way of Michigan Reconnect and Michigan Achievement Scholarship, and you know, that pairs up nicely with some federal assistance that students get. But the ACC Foundation scholarships really help fill in those gaps where some of those other programs are lacking. And then also it really helps those students who are kind of those middle income family students where maybe they don't qualify for financial need, but college is still expensive. So it's really, you know, helps them along.
Well, sure. Could you talk about that a little bit more? the number and the amount of scholarships that students can apply for, and talk about applying quickly too, because every year there's this process that students need to go through to apply for scholarships, and it's always important for them to know that and to plan ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really excited. A couple years ago, we finally came into the 21st century, and we have an online application process now.
Great.
So it's very easy for our students. Our scholarship application opens the first week of January, and it's open for the entire month of January and February. Closes on March 1st, and students basically use their ACC ID. So they have to apply for admission to ACC first. Once they have that, they go on our website to the scholarship page, and they begin their application. And it's really a step-by-step. It walks them through a series of questions. And so it's each question is kind of like a qualifying type question. And at the end of answering this series of questions, the system will tell them what scholarships that they're eligible for. And then they're automatically applied to those. So we have gosh, I think we have over 250 individually named scholarships, so scholarships that have been named in memory or honor of somebody, but many of those individual scholarships produce multiple awards. So some of them could produce, you know, anywhere from one, let's say a $500 scholarship up to, we have some scholarships that produce, you know, 10 or 15 awards. So there's lots of opportunities, and many of our donors have established scholarships for specific programs.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, one of the things that I hear from prospective students is that they don't think that they would get need-based scholarships, but the ACC Foundation has more than just need-based scholarships, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of our scholarships are indeed need-based, but many of them, your financial status really doesn't matter. We have academic-based scholarships. We have scholarships that are intended for students who have a great record of volunteering or community service. We have scholarships that are just tied to, you know, for example, where you live. If you're from Presque Isle County, you may qualify for certain scholarships, or, you know, a certain area of the state. So I always encourage all students to apply for the scholarships, because you never know which ones you're going to qualify for, and it takes maybe 20 to 30 minutes to complete the scholarship application, and if you can secure even the smallest of our scholarships at $500 and for 30 minutes of your time, it's definitely worth it. But you know, Jay, we do have the foundation is more than just about scholarships. What we found, as many people might not be aware, is that our students struggle with more than just paying for tuition. We have students that are, you know, struggling to pay rent, or struggling to buy food, or
transportation. You know,
transportation, things like that. So, you know, we do have emergency assistance fund where we can help students with things like that. If a student has come upon some hard times and they can't, let's say, afford for gas to get to classes for the last 2 weeks of classes, let's say, we can help them out with some gas cards, or waivers for using, you know, the dial-a-ride buses, things like that. We have a food pantry on both Alpena campus and Oscoda campus for our students. This is a honor-based system, no questions asked, where students can just come in and help themselves to non-perishable food items. And, you know, what we really just want to do is be there to help students succeed.
You mentioned a couple of non-scholarship activities with the foundation. Can you talk about that quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So non-academic scholarship type things. One thing, you know, I wanted to share is that we had a donor recently that wanted to honor a loved one that actually had worked at ACC in our library area. Her name was Elaine Wagner, and I guess Elaine was really big on making sure that everybody took time to take a break from their day. Students are busy studying, you know, workers are busy working, but it was really important to her that everybody just took a few minutes every day just to take a break and kind of relax. And so her family created an endowment fund that provides funds each year for the Elaine Wagner Coffee Corner in our ACC library. So students on campus we encourage you to come and take a break. Come sit down at the Elaine Wagner Coffee Corner. There's a Keurig there with little snacks and some little fidget toys or things like that for you just to kind of take a break out of your day. It's all paid for. You don't have to, you know, pay anything for that. But it's kind of a neat way for a donor to give back and help our students. You know, so there's things like that. But we like to get kind of creative in how we can help the students, and especially for a donor who might want to make an impact in a different way. I certainly encourage anybody who's wanting to support ACC or our students to come on in and see me, and we can talk about what the needs are of our students and how we can help and make an impact.
I'm glad you mentioned the food pantry. That is another concern that has been going through the college. I know the Board of Trustees have talked about that recently. Well, I'm sure there's lots of other things that we could talk about because there's so many great things going on with the foundation, but that's all of our time.
Thank you, Jay.
So thank you for joining me, Brenda.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure.
And thank you for joining me. Once again, I am Jay Walterwright, Director of Public Information and Marketing at Alpena Community College, and this is Talk of the Town.
This has been Talk of the Town with your hosts Bradley Summers and Dr. Don McMaster. For a list of community events taking place in Northeast Michigan, please visit our website at WBKB11.com and click on our community link. This has been a Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation production. All rights reserved.